Welcome to the Entrepreneurship Center, and thank you so much for joining us right here in Chiang Mai, Thailand. My name is Desmond, and what we're going to cover today is the 5 entrepreneurial motivators that normally drive the career of an entrepreneur. Now, there is a phrase that I like to use and to really go back to whenever I forget why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that phrase is very simple: lack of. Right? It's what am I lacking in my professional career, or what was I lacking that either is triggering me to do this new thing called entrepreneurship, or that's triggering me to stay in the game. Normally, there are 5 different motivators, right? And before we get into those motivators, actually, there's normally 2 states you can be in. You can be in an entrepreneurial state, which means that you're normally working for someone else, but you have dreams and aspirations, or you have a desire to work for yourself someday. That's most people. The other side of the fence is entrepreneur, someone who's in the game, who's taking risk, who created a commercial venture, who's exerting initiative, right? Those are kind of the basic 3 pillars of entrepreneurship. In any side of the fence that you're on, this video is still very applicable to you, but it's applicable to you in different ways. If you're entrepreneurial, you're going to want to look at this video to understand what voids do you have in your professional career, and what is going to propel you to move forward into this unpredictable, uncertain, but fun world of entrepreneurship. And if you are an entrepreneur full time, then you're going to go through difficult periods and dark times, and then sometimes you're going to question why you do what you do. So it's very important for you to understand, okay, which of these 5 motivators is really propelling me? Why did I get started? Why do I need to keep going? Because if you get out of this line of work and you go into something else, you're going to go back to having a lack of or a void somewhere else. So let's talk about the 5 entrepreneurial motivators that we've seen across hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs when we broke down their stories and then we extracted, okay, why did you get started and why do you do what you do? Now, number 1 is normally fulfillment. Fulfillment basically is happiness extracted from the actions that you're taking on a daily basis, right? In your professional career, this is happiness maybe from an industry that you're in or the line of work that you're in, right? If you're an accountant, but you want to be a scientist, there's a high chance that you may not feel like you're fulfilled, right? If you are in the grocery industry, and let's say you own a grocery store, but you're serving a demographic of people that are not necessarily in alignment with who you want to be working with, you may have a lack of fulfillment. In any scenario, if you're lacking in this area, it's a lack of happiness from the professional actions that you're taking in your job or your business every day. And again, if you have the job, if you have this area, then you may use this as a tailwind to project you into the area of entrepreneurship, so you don't have this lack of, but so that void can be filled when you become an entrepreneur, right? Number 2 is freedom. Freedom is essentially living without external controls. A lot of people use this term or phrase all the time. I want to be my own boss, right? Well, what do you think they're saying? They're basically saying that they want freedom. They want to live without external controls. And there's nothing wrong with that. One thing I do want to say about freedom, it's actually very funny because everyone talks about freedom and financial freedom and all that, but actually freedom is a myth. Here's why. We live in a world with other people, and we live in a world with rules that, and oftentimes, and most of the times, we don't control those rules. Now, you could say, yeah, I control the rules of my life, I control the rules of my household, I control boom, 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 right? That's true. But if you live in a world with other people, you live in certain jurisdictions or any land managed or ran by government, you're still within the greater rules of someone else. So you're never really going to realize this true freedom that everyone talks about. But you can get much closer than where you are today. So I just want to, kind of dispel that myth, because everyone's always seem to be searching for this or talking about this in the early stages of entrepreneurship. I'll tell you another thing about freedom as well. Oftentimes, you're actually going to put yourself significantly further away from freedom in the very beginning of your entrepreneurial career, because you are going to be at the mercy of your customers, you're going to be at the mercy of your products, you're going to be at the mercy of your staff, your employees, your contractors. You're essentially going to have more bosses than you had when you're working your current job. No one talks about that, but that is the truth. Now, once you get further on in your career, you can realize that freedom and the things that you want, but it's going to take a while. So I just want to be clear on that freedom thing, because everyone throws that term around a lot. Number 3, recognition. Very simple. Being known for something. Now, normally you find that there's a lack of recognition when someone is working at their job. They feel like they're putting in all this work, but they're not being recognized. They're not getting Employee of the Month, or they're not getting that raise, or they're not getting the things that they feel that other people are getting, or the things that they feel that they deserve. This oftentimes happens when you're an entrepreneur as well. If you're trying to build a product or a company and you feel like your competitor is getting more recognition than you are, and you feel like you're doing a better job, or you feel like you've put more at risk and they don't deserve the adoration and the recognition that you're getting. This happens across the board. So if that is a driver for you, you must understand being known for something is what you want. Now, I want to caution you in this area of recognition. Being recognized for things not only brings good, but it also can bring bad, because people don't like when you get recognized, right? So you must understand, the more recognition you get, the more challenges and trouble that you're going to deal with from others that felt like you felt. They don't think that you should have the recognition or the adoration that you have as well. So be careful with this one and make sure you're willing to pay the price it takes to be known for something. The other thing is this, when it comes to recognition, I often see this with artists. Many times, like painters or musicians or people that are really just trying to give back, and they just got to have something in them that they want to give, but that oftentimes is very difficult to monetize. You got to be careful with the recognition thing, because you have to combine the money and the business side of things with the recognition and being known for something. There's many people that died that never were able to get recognized when they were alive for things. And some of those people got lucky enough to be recognized after they died. But wouldn't you rather be recognized when you were alive and also be able to have the money to do more and more of what you love? Very few people reach that pinnacle. So be careful with recognition, but it is, we're humans, right? We want to be recognized. We want people to know us for something. We want to be known, and we want to contribute to the world. So that's a natural thing. Number 4, control. Leading yourself and others. I don't know how I feel about the whole, natural, people were born with it thing. But I actually do think that maybe, certain people were born to either be leaders, or more importantly, that their environment has put them in a situation where that's all they know, right? So control is really about leading yourself first and doing a good job there, and then also trying to lead others, right? So if you're in a position, maybe at your job, or you're an entrepreneur, you're self-employed, and you don't have any staff with you, or you don't have any customers, or you don't have any suppliers, whatever that is, if you feel like you're lacking in this area, well, then it's control. So the opposite of that is trying to go get more control in a responsible way by becoming better at what you do and getting buy-in from others that believe in what you're doing, so that you can lead them in the right direction to get to the end goal or the destination. That's control, leading yourself and others. Compensation is the one that probably all of us have in common. We feel like we're not getting compensated enough, right? So compensation is essentially money paid for something done. That's either you trading your time, you trading services or products, and someone walks away with something that you created. That all has to do with compensation. If you're an entrepreneur, most times, and it's funny because Grant Cardone says this, for most of your career, you're going to be undercompensated, and then if you can make it long enough and you can survive through all the battles and the trials and the challenges, if you can just get to that tipping point, then you'll be way overcompensated for what you do. I was watching a documentary with a friend, or actually an interview with a friend of mine just a few nights ago, and we were looking at a famous comedian. And actually, he's got a really big problem with this. He makes $20 million a year, and he feels like he's not recognized still. And he sells out arenas, and he does all this type of stuff. So getting back to the compensation point, though, is that he was booked for a private gig, and I think he was paid a few $100,000 for like 90 minutes of his time. And there was like 10 people in the room. So the question becomes, why was he paid that much money for 90 minutes of time? Could you imagine, like a few $100,000? Most people never make that in a year, let alone making that in 90 minutes. It's because for the bulk of his career, he was probably underpaid. And then what happened is he got to a tipping point where he's actually overpaid, right? So if you can endure all the pain that comes along with being an entrepreneur, and obviously there's lots of joy and happiness, and you could have a better way to control getting more of these and not having a lack of, right? I'm not trying to discourage you away from it, but if you can make it through, you can get to the point where you're overcompensated for the same amount of work that for most of your career you were undercompensated for. So look, I just want to share these 5 entrepreneurial motivators with you today, because I know in my own personal journey as an entrepreneur, I really thought that freedom was the driver, right? I want to be free, I want to do, and I want to control. And I do have aspects of that. And most entrepreneurs I know have aspects of that. But if I had to pick one, for me, it's control. It's the ability to lead myself, control what I work on, when I work on it, and who I work on it with. You have to identify for you which of those 5 motivators, if you're entrepreneurial, is going to propel you into the life of entrepreneurship. And if you're currently a full-time entrepreneur now, through those dark times, you're going to have to look back and say, what was I lacking before that made me choose this life? And once you identify what that is, that's going to help you get through that dark time and continue on into the great times. My name is Desmond, manager here at the Entrepreneurship Center, and I appreciate you watching this video on 5 entrepreneurial motivators.